This is the tool overview for intentional discipleship relationships, which is on page 4 of the River Tree Discipleship Toolkit. This tool conveys the key characteristics and principles that drive intentional discipleship relationships in our culture. So let's take a look at the picture. What principle or concept does this tool teach us? This tool is a picture of a plant supported by a trellis. In John 15, Jesus uses the relationship between a vine and its branches to help us understand what it means to be in relationship with Him. Intentional discipleship relationships are going to function like a trellis would to a plant. Now, if you've ever been to a vineyard that's worth its salt, you've seen not only a large field full of vines, but you see trellis structures all through, built with one simple function: to create support and structure and space so that these vines can flourish and grow as much fruit as possible. In John 15, Jesus says that He wants us to bear much fruit, and that's the evidence that we are following Him, is that we become fruit-bearing plants in the world that are filled with the life of Jesus and overflow with fruitfulness. And so a trellis doesn't grow a plant, it just creates space and structure for growth to happen. In the same way, as followers of Jesus, a discipleship relationship doesn't grow us, it's Jesus Himself who grows us. But a discipleship relationship creates space and structure in our life through which Jesus can grow us to be more fruitful than before. So as we look at this picture, we see those 3 lines there where we underline why intentional discipleship relationships are critical for us to push into good growth. So the intentional part, good growth happens on purpose. No one accidentally becomes more like Christ, just like you don't accidentally save a lot of money for retirement. It becomes part of a strategy. It's a part of a plan that you need to have on purpose. Your life is not going to naturally push you into the kind of growth that you could have if you were to structure your life and make space in your life and use your time and your resources in a way to actually catalyze growth. And so we want to underline the fact that a good discipleship relationship is going to happen on purpose. There to the right on that card, we recommend twice a month if possible. It could be more. It could be less, but we say about twice a month with the person or people you're in relationship with would be a good way to intentionally structure your life so that discipleship, so following Jesus together, can happen. The middle one, discipleship. Good growth means following. That ultimately discipleship is about us listening to and following the Spirit of God into the world. It's not just religious activity. There's not just a checklist of things that we're asking you to do. That ultimately this is a relational thing where we are listening to and following Christ, who we have confessed as Lord. We're practicing that through listening and following together. And so there to the right, obviously, we're going to say that you should be a follower of Jesus. And in a discipleship relationship, it is primarily and centered on this idea that Jesus is Lord. And so we are going to listen to and follow and learn from and imitate and yield ourselves to Jesus Christ. This third one, relationship. Good growth happens together. You see that Jesus didn't call one person to follow Him in the Scriptures, but He called a group of 12. In this group of people, growth was catalyzed because like charcoal that you lump together, the heat from one would bring heat to the others, and it would cause things to get white hot. We believe that we are designed to follow Jesus together in community. This is not a solo or sport, that this is something that we do together as a team, as a body. And so we encourage all of our people to follow Jesus together with others. Our recommendation is to have a group of about 2 to 8 people together having these kinds of conversations. Anything more than 8 is going to become really hard to get personal and intimate with. And obviously it has to be more than one, or you're not doing it with anyone. So there on the right are our recommendations of what we think a good intentional discipleship relationship should be. Well, let's talk about this through the idea of a mirror. How does this tool help us see ourselves more clearly? After we explain this tool, there should always be a time where we apply these principles to our own lives. The two clear reflections you can use here. First, you can look at this as a way to talk about structure and space. Space and structure, that equation there at the bottom. Are you creating space and structure in your life for good growth? If so, how? How can you make room in your life to more intentionally grow or to intentionally structure your life for growth? And who are you going to do this with? Are you actively following Jesus? And who can you actively follow Jesus alongside? Second, you can use this to assess how your intentional discipleship relationship is doing. Is your relationship and your conversation with the people that you are either discipling or being discipled by or in mutual discipleship conversations with, is it being fueled by this desire to stay vitally connected to Jesus? Is it bearing fruit? Are there ways that you can create more space and structure in your world for intentional growth? Are you doing the kinds of things that you would need to do to grow? To tend to your own life in such a way where you're nourishing yourself, where you are pushing yourself to be a follower of Jesus and not just a doer of religious activities. The window. How does this tool help us to see our world more clearly? The big concept here is that we recognize that good growth happens on purpose, that discipleship is the call of all of us who have committed to follow Jesus. I mean, that's what it is. Discipleship is simply following Jesus. We do this together and we do this on purpose. And so to use this as a paradigm for the way that you think about your relationships and what it means for you as someone who is committed to follow Jesus, to also be a follower and a disciple of Jesus. Like, you can use this to structure and think about your relationships in intentional ways. This can also lead to a larger scriptural exploration of John 15 and what it means to be a disciple of Jesus, which is always a very worthy thing for us to do, is to constantly think about what does it mean for us as followers of Jesus to build our lives in such a way where following Jesus becomes a source of life for us, not just a priority, but the thing by which we grow and thrive in the world.